guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my October wrap-up. I first want to say thank you to everybody that left me a supportive comment or a kind tweet about my interview in Tucson. I really appreciate it. The interview went well. It's still too early. I haven't heard back just yet, but I will let you guys know. If I don't end up getting an offer, I think it was still an amazing experience. And I had a lot of fun exploring Tucson. I also had a blast in San Francisco with the girls. I'm very lucky to call them my friends, and we had a lot of fun exploring San Francisco and having some amazing meals. If you are interested in some photos, I'll link my Instagram down below. Anyway, I'm just going to jump right into the wrap-up because I finished 7 books this month. The first 2 books that I read, I'm not really going to talk about here because I already talked about them in my Hispanic Heritage Month wrap-up, so I'll have a link to that video down below and a little card at the top if I remember to put it up there. But basically those books were Talking to Ourselves by Neuman. I gave that one 2 stars. And then the next one was Of Love and Other Demons by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and I gave that one 4 stars. So if you're interested in those 2 or hearing more about my thoughts on those, check out that video. The next book that I read was Stillhouse Lake by Caine. This is a mystery slash thriller set in a place called Stillhouse Lake in Tennessee. The main premise is that a mother who has 2 children. She unknowingly has been married to a serial killer, and at the beginning of the book she finds out that all along her husband has been capturing and torturing and killing young women. And when she finds out that this has happened, of course she's shocked. She had no idea that this was going on, but of course, even though she's acquitted, nobody believes her. They think that she was in on it. So she has to go kind of on the run with her 2 children. They have different identities and they have like kind of a paranoid system set in place so that nobody knows where they are. So she finally settles in Stillhouse Lake with her children, and from the beginning she feels like they finally found a good place to be at peace. And all of a sudden a victim is found dead in the lake, and it turns out that she's been murdered exactly like her serial killer husband would kill his victims. So that sets off kind of a chain of events, and the rest is just a very fast-paced thriller all about her trying to figure out what's going on, if her husband is able to still have some sort of influence from prison, who can she trust. There's like a huge climax, and it was just a very entertaining read. So I gave it 3 stars because it was very entertaining, and I finished it in just a few days because it was really fast-paced. The next book that I read was a 5-star read for me, and that was Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn. I checked this out from the library after I heard about it on a podcast, and I'm so glad that I did. This is my first book by Jesmyn, and it won't be the last. This book is very hard to sum up in a few sentences, but I'm going to try. It's about a young 13-year-old black boy named Jojo who lives in Mississippi with his grandparents and his mother, Lenny. He also has a smaller sister, and he takes care of her a lot. Her name is Michaela. Jojo is trying to learn what it means to be a man. He has a lot of respect for his grandfather, Pop, and his grandmother. Those 2 have been kind of the pillars for him in this crazy family unit that he has with Lenny and Michael, who are both drug addicts. And Lenny herself, she's dealing with a lot of demons because of the way that her brother Given died. So all of this is kind of going on at the same time. We're jumping from past to present, and the book is written in different points of view. Really, the magic of this book is the writing style. Ward has chosen to deliberately write a sentence in a way that it will stick with you. It will not read like anything you've read before. At least I haven't read books like this. They're not common. I think what I'll do is I'll include a quote down in the description box where you can kind of get an idea of what kind of writing this book has, and that might help you decide if it's the right book for you, because I really don't think this book is for everybody. I don't think this writing style is for everybody. This type of writing forces me to look at the story differently. I have no choice because of the way that I'm reading it. So I love books like that. I love books that are kind of uncomfortable to read, that sometimes you have to reread some things to really see what the author meant, or it really feels like something that I can touch and feel. And it's definitely a book that I'm going to be remembering for a long time. So yes, I really love Jesmyn. I'm really happy that I read this book, and I hope that more people pick it up. The next book I read was a buddy read with Roxanne from A Novel Sanctuary. I'll have her channel linked down below. and reread In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. I don't have a physical copy of this book, so I'll insert a picture right here. This book is Capote's, I think, only nonfiction. It talks about the murder of a family in Kansas, in a small town in Kansas. I was so excited to get into this book because I've heard so much about it, and after I read it, I can understand why. This book reads like literary fiction, and I can definitely see its influence on other true crime novels or other nonfiction books that I've read. The fact that Capote chose to write it in this way really brings the characters to life, and it really makes you feel connected to them in some way, so that when you finally find out what happened to them and the way that they were murdered and the two people that were involved in their murders, you kind of can't help but become kind of attached and have an emotional response. At least I couldn't help it. I also really like the way the book was structured. Capote kind of takes you from before the murder. He introduces you to the family. He introduces you to the two criminals, Perry and Dick, their family background, and then he kind of walks you right up to the murder, and then of course talks about the aftermath, the trial, the prison, and then the death sentences of both of the criminals. And I really enjoyed this structure because I kind of felt like I was getting an all-around view of the case. I definitely recommend this book to anybody that's into true crime or nonfiction in general. If you're into Nonfiction November or you're participating in Nonfiction November, this would be a great pick because it's nice and short, and I highly recommend it. The next book I read was Far From the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy, and I buddy read this one with Amanda Center here on BookTube, and we had a blast reading this book, even though we ended up, I think, both giving it just 3 stars. This is a story of 3 main characters: Bathsheba, a young, naive, selfish girl; Gabriel Oak, who is a farmer who at the beginning of the book loses everything and is in love with Bathsheba; and another farmer, Boldwood, who's well off, and after a very unfortunate prank that Bathsheba plays on him, he falls in love with her as well. The story really centers around Bathsheba. She just can't seem to make the right decision to save her life. At the beginning of the book, she's very young and she decides to kind of play a prank on Farmer Boldwood. She sends him a Valentine and mistakenly lets him believe that she is interested in him. So then he starts noticing her and falls in love with her. But when he confronts her and tells her how he feels, she's not here for it. She's trying to tell him that she's not interested in him in that way, that she's very sorry, that she didn't think that the letter or the note was going to have that effect on him. And of course he can't accept this, and it kind of starts a chain of events that just gets worse and worse and worse. Eventually Bathsheba meets a man named Sergeant Troy, and this is a good-for-nothing scumbag that she falls in love with naturally, and then that kind of creates a love triangle that is very pitiful and ends horribly. This was a lot of fun to discuss. There was so many different things that happen in this story, a lot of surprises and twists, and you know, the only thing that stays constant is Bathsheba and the fact that she cannot learn from her mistakes and keeps making the same mistake. And then the ending was very satisfying to me, although at the end I just couldn't give it more than 3 stars. I felt like Hardy's style of writing is just not my cup of tea, so I couldn't give it more than 3 stars. But I did have a lot of fun buddy reading it with Amanda, and we both agreed that if we had not been buddy reading this together, we probably wouldn't have finished it, but I'm glad that we did. And then the last book that I read was Death and Holy Orders by P.D. James. I think this is my 4th mystery by P.D. James, and I absolutely love them. I love the way that she structures her mysteries, how I never know who it is till the very end, and I just really enjoy her writing. It reads a lot like literary fiction, and so I kind of can get lost in the story and the different characters, and I really like that she respects the reader. She doesn't think that we're dumb and won't see things, and she doesn't purposely hold things back either. We're kind of following the detective from beginning to end as he's piecing together the case, and he doesn't really, you know, keep things secret. We know in just as much as he does. He's just smarter than us, but it's not like, you know, to the very end the murderer turns out to be somebody that we never expected. You know, it's always somebody that was kind of like in our peripheral, and we always knew that they had the capacity to do the murder, but somebody else also had great motive. So it's that kind of mystery, and all her mysteries are like that. which make it a lot of fun to read. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and it kind of ended the month on a high note, which is always great. And I definitely am going to be reading more mysteries by P.D. James. I just love her. So those are all of the books that I finished this month. There were some highs and some lows. But overall, I had a great reading month, and already I can feel like November is going to be another fun month because of Nonfiction November and some other books that I am currently reading. Let me know down in the comments if you read any of these books or if you have any thoughts on the books that I discussed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.